The money I left behind was not left in overseas. I left money in 3 banks. Those 3 banks are there. You can go there. In fact, after this interview, I have in my little office here a photocopy. I will give you a photocopy of my handover note, including the balances of that account as at date I left office, issued by the banks. I left in Access Bank, which is still there. 12 billion naira, $50 million. And I'm going to give you a copy.
12 billion naira and $50 million in Access Bank.
I left in Diamond Bank. 12 billion naira, $50 million.
In Diamond and
Diamond. I left in Fidelity Bank. 12 billion naira, $50 million.
$50 million in these 3 accounts. And
$150 million and 36 billion.
What debts did you...
1 minute. They're documented. Rufai, the day I left office, I was not owing one contractor, one supplier who have executed his job. If you see one today, I challenge you. Go and sit. I was not owing any civil servant that was supposed to be paid by the state salary. I was not owing gratuity. I was not owing pension. Additionally, if you want to know, I left salary enough to pay salary for 3 months. It's documented. And I'm going to give you the documents. It's not something that anybody... So I wasn't owing anybody.
So you said you were not owing people that had completed their job, but you were owing those that had not completed their jobs.
If you haven't done your job, can I pay you? How can you pay somebody who haven't completed a job? Even you.
So you had paid, you are not paid those that were not completed, that the job was still ongoing.
If your job is ongoing, I won't. Let me give you an example.
So are you telling me?
When I came
are you telling me that you left no debts behind in Anambra?
Not one. And I was even begging people to come and take their money. If you had a job in Anambra, you can go and ask anybody. Not one. Not one. Anybody who tells you Peter B was owing him, call the person. I've challenged people for 10 years.
Look at his humility, his simplicity. I think, it represents a different kind of example of political leadership, of business leadership. This is a man that has been involved with 3 different banks, and yet he sees the need to give an account. I hope that more political leaders, will learn 1 or 2 things from his example.
So guys, Mr. Peter will be granted a fresh interview to Arise Television, speaking on the state of the nation and what he would have done differently from what Tinubu is doing today. We all know that the cost of living today is something Nigerians cannot still understand why, after subsidy was said to have been removed. And also the insecurity ravaging the country, the unemployment rate, the instability of our naira and all that. Peter Obi has come out to tell Nigerians what he would have done differently if he was to be the one in charge of Nigeria today. Take your time, watch this video, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now take a look.
Performance in the last elections, Peter Obi has been in the eye of public scrutiny. People that disagree with him have consistently affirmed that he hasn't posited viable options to the current economic problems and other challenges in Nigeria. Well, in this interview, Obi speaks about the state of the nation, the challenges with the Labour Party, amongst other issues.
Our guest needs no introduction. He ran in an election in 2023, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. While he started, a lot of people had their doubts. But after the elections, he got over 6 million votes. A third candidate getting over 6 million votes in this Nigerian political dispensation is quite an encouraging one. He has since built a movement called the Obedient Movement. People also have their doubts because of the political squabbles in his political party, the Labour Party, factionalization of the party, and other challenges he has faced. His group, the Obedient Movement, stands strong with him. But this is not without a lot of challenges. He says he has some ideas for national development, and he has constantly been a vocal critic and an opposition member and a leader against the current government of President Tinubu. Are his ideas valid? There are also criticisms against him. Some of those will estray in this conversation. We'll talk about a lot of issues, and we'll talk about his prospects for the next elections. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me Peter Gregory Obi. My pleasure having you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rufai.
This interview will be to clear a lot of things people have against you. They say you do not have credible economic growth alternatives. For instance, they say you have just criticized President Tinubu's government, but you have not given alternative or what you will have done or subsidy removal, as regards subsidy removal, as regards floating the naira, and as regards other things that President Tinubu did to stabilize the economy, which were bold measures. What will you have done?
Rufai, I was surprised when you said this is about criticisms. They should have even said some things that I did that was positive, or I said that was positive. But let me tell you, I've consistently maintained that I would have removed the fuel subsidy. If you go to my manifesto, it's there. Steps I would have taken to do it in an organized manner. There was nothing wrong in removal of subsidy. What is wrong is the haphazard way in which it was announced and implemented. Everybody knows that the subsidy regime was a solution of criminality, that there was a lot of corruption around everybody, which you needed to bundle that aspect out of it, do it in an organized manner. And since you're doing it for savings, we're told we're doing it because we don't want to continue to borrow to continue the subsidy. And the removal of it will be able to have available funds to be invested in critical area of development. With honest things, billions saved. Where is it? Where is he invested in those critical areas of development?
They said they've given the money to the governors. That's what.
No.
They said they've increased their FAC allocation.
Rufai.
They said most of the states have been able to pay their.
Everybody knows what critical areas of development is. And I say it morning, afternoon, night. It is education, health, and pulling people out of poverty. Rufai, is any of these three, has it improved? No.
The Minister of Health said they're getting new primary health care centers. As regards education, they said they have done NEL Fund, where they give student loan to people. As regards infrastructure, they talk about Postal Road and all that.
Let me just finish, Rufai. What I'm saying is, if you look at this, so you have removed this. People are paying more for fuel. It has escalated cost of everything, and we are not seeing where. The same thing with what you're talking about, issue of naira. There's nothing wrong with floating your currency. There's nothing wrong in even devaluing your currency. But Rufai, you do this when you have productivity. What devaluation or floating does that? Your currency becomes, in terms of value, low. You attract investment. Your products becomes unmarketable. But where we are unproductive, you have nothing to sell. So it's a double whammy. So in all this, I would have done the same thing in an organized manner. And when people say alternative economic policies, they're there.
So what is this organized manner?
That's what I was saying to you.
So can you give us precept by precept of this organized manner in which you have pulled out subsidy?
Subsidy removes the criminality that's associated with it, which is over 50% of it. Be able to sit down with the operators there and come up with a pricing that will not be agreed. And then, whatever we're able to save from it, have a specific place where invest in it. So we say, whatever is saved from here, whatever we are giving it to the states, anything, it is specific for this. We have to have a national planning where all the resources will be put in. It is not just something you say, oh, we are sharing it the way we used to share every other morning. No, because that's not what you said. You said, we will be able to put it in critical areas of development. That was your promise. So we've removed it. People want to see where these funds are invested. It's a very clear thing. We're not the only country who've done that before. Countries after countries go with national plans.
So would you have floated the naira if you got in? And how? You said there's nothing wrong with it. Would you have floated the naira? Tell me the precept upon precept at which you will have floated the naira.
I would have been doing it in an organized manner.
What's the organized manner?
I would have focused on making sure that we ramp up production in agriculture, in manufacturing, and everything, and do it gradually.
So you will have kept on defending it until we ramp up production.
It's not, you're not defending it.
Yeah.
Because even in the so-called currency, there were criminality as well. Rufai, I came from a background of business, banking, everything. So I know everything that is associated with the criminalities and all these things, which you can actually be tightening while trying to do a gradual evaluation.
How would you have increased production in a country that President Tinubu claimed that there was no money when he came?
Well,
and things were really bad and he had to take those decisive measures. How would you have increased production in a country where you have crisis on the farms, economic crisis, no power, no productivity and the likes? How would you have increased?
You've just said it. That means you should face those things. Rufai just said it. Why do we talk about a sample? Do you know these projects that will lead to nowhere when we have crisis? Rufai, are you saying that coastal road is more important than securing Nigeria?
But they say it will open up to the country.
No, don't. Rufai, let's not go there. The roads we have all over the country are no motorable. You fix those ones first and use your resources to secure your country. Say, Rufai, then security is far more fundamental than road. Rufai, will you prefer a road to your village when you cannot drive to your village? No. So if you prefer, so let us prioritize what we're doing. So if you say our problem is insecurity, they can't go to farm, our problem is power, let's deal with those things. Let's use our resources to...
So how would you have dealt with insecurity, for instance, that's lasted over 10 years?
Rufai, we're a country. Non-state actors cannot take over the country. There's something wrong. I can tell you, I have done in my own small way facing security as the governor of the state. And we decided that we have to take drastic action.
But a lot of people criticize you that it was only the time you had to cause a SARS that also violated the fundamental rights of people.
Go and ask them. It's very simple to accuse people and say things that are wrong about people. You can go and see what happened while we were there. It was nothing. All those things they are talking never existed. And you saw the former IG Abubakar, a month after I left, say for 5 years, they didn't have one incident of bank robbery or this. That was there when I came. We are government. We must secure our people. And it requires decisive action. It requires, if we're at war, we declare war. And we know we're at war. But
would you have declared a state of war on banditry if you had come in?
Whatever it takes to secure the country, I'll do it.
Let's talk about your records. And these are the criticisms.
Yes.
They say that when the Panama paper came out, they said you didn't declare some of the money you had offshore. They said when you were governor, you keep saying, oh, democracy and rule of law, but you didn't do local government elections. They also said...
Can I take them one after the other?
Take them one after the other.
Let me take issue of Panama paper.
Pandora Papers, sorry.
No, Pandora.
Yeah, Pandora Papers.
Let me tell you, Rufai, I have a clear, legitimate trust, which is allowed in law internationally to be able to plan for inheritance purposes. And it is documented and everything. It was there, that company, which you can trace, moved from one company to another, started Asaba in the 90s. And it's in trace, it's not something you can know. In the 90s, Rufai started about 96, 97, I'm not clear, but I can tell you, until I became governor 2006. So it was a clear case of over a decade before I became governor. But that process, I started saving in a bank, Lloyd's Bank, and that came out of resources which were earned by a company I was running abroad, Nest International Limited, which is a subsidiary of Nest International Nigeria, my company in Nigeria, which was duly declared. When that came out, it became news. They said, oh, that a place they found money where I owned about $500 million. I was actually investigated.
By the FCC?
By everybody said, oh, they found a place where there's 500. Before I replied, I said, if you go there and see 3%, I didn't say 10%, 3% of what you claim, or you mentioned, life imprisonment. Rufai, do you think I can tell you, go and look at what I declared when I became governor? I was already a bank chairman, everything. Naira, at the time I became governor, was about 100 Naira to $1. To date, the money in the said savings is about, I don't even know whether it's the one that belongs to me is up to $15 million. Do you think it was $15 million that I've stolen since then and kept? Is that the amount of money people are stealing in Nigeria today?
But they talk about the investment in the brewery.
No, let me finish. We're talking about Pandora Paper. Let's do it one after the other. So, So what they did is that people blew something that is out of proportion. Rufai, that I saved, say, 100 million naira is what? But when they saw it, even one organization said they saw about $1 billion. I said, $1 billion. If I have $1 billion, me and you won't be talking. But if you go there,
how much is that?
1%. No. I told him, I said, go there if you get 1% of. If you see.
So how much is there for Thursday privilege?
There's no transparency purposes. I put in every year. If it's 1 naira, I put there. I just told you that when they said it's 500, and I tell them go and get 3% there. 3%
but you know what I'm asking, because if you want to return, you have to declare your trust.
Everything is declared. It's plain. Everything.
Okay, for the want of time, let's go through.
The other one, he said brewery. Let me tell you, Rufai, I'm happy you're asking that question because people have talked about breweries and everything. Rufai, if I tell you what I suffered for that brewery to be built in Anambra State, you will not believe it.
Not to do so.
I had to go out trying to attract business to Anambra State. The biggest revenue earner in Enugu State is Ama Brewery. Ama Brewery in Enugu. The biggest earner, call it revenue source for Anambra today, is that brewery.
But you said the government stake that they invested had gone down, that it was not smart investment. Those are some of the things they say.
Thank you very much. I wish other people in Nigeria invested in something that went down. That's not smart. I said the biggest revenue earner, the revenue source, is that brewery. That brewery is employing at least directly 500 Anambra people. That brewery is at least giving food to over 5,000 Anambrarians. Those who use that business, distributors, truck drivers, everything. I wish people are doing that. What we do is that we condemn what is that. Because of the way they've been treated, they are the biggest brewery in Ogun State. Have you ever heard anybody say in Ogun State, oh, the brewery is this? They have a bigger brewery in Ogun State.
They say you brought poverty to Anambra. Those are the criticisms of Lagos State governor recently. So they said they say about they said I think they accused you and they said under your tenure poverty did increase and all of that. So you had no moral right to go to John Hopkins and talk about poverty.
You are talking about narrow interest and narrow assessment. Go and look at Nigerian Competitive Index. Go and look at Rufai. I was governor of Anambra State from 2006. And I was impeached. So you can say I was governor of Anambra State from 2007 to 2014, 7 years. I was effectively governor for 7 years because the first year I was removed, as you know. So I was governor for 7 years. Rufai, Nigeria as a country was a signatory to the global measure of development, which is Millennium Development Goal. That is a global thing. Nigeria was a signatory to it.
Yeah.
That is what made China to pull 439 million people out of poverty. That was made India to put over 150 million out of poverty. I can go on and on. But Nigeria was signatory to it. And it was signed in the year 2000. Rufai, I became governor in the year, started effective governance in 2007 after I came back from impeachment and tenure interpretation. By the time he ended in 2014, Anambra State under me was #1. In terms of, this is not me who measured it. It was UNDP. I was even invited to United Nations to come and give a speech on what we did. I was number one. I was number one in education. Health had improved and everything. I can go on and on. So when you now have a distorted disaster, say, go and look at World Nigerian Competitive Index. Go and ask people who were involved in fighting poverty in Nigeria then. Bako, and all. Go ask them. Who was, ask all the donor agencies, who is the first to pay his counterpart funding? Ask everybody. The only thing I didn't do well, Rufai, is that I wasn't in media. I wasn't going about paying media people, advertising myself and everything, because I have a little bit of concern about giving people money, because it was public money. That's all. Otherwise, maybe if I was advertising myself, nobody would be. But to show you what it is, Rufai, come, I live in Anambra today. The only place I have a house in my name, owned by me, is in Anambra State, in Onitsha. And if you go, I'm inviting you any day in Anambra State, let's walk the streets. And people will tell you, who is this man?
Okay. They also say you didn't do a lot of infrastructure. These are the things people say. They say, what about schools?
You don't need to,
what about Kappa-TV? They said after you left Anambra, it's not that you turned Anambra into paradise.
No,
that Oka was still unique, somehow. So there's nothing.
Let me not waste your. Don't waste your time, Rufai. I got certified from Federal Ministry of Works as governor to have the best road connectivity, who opened up all the rural areas. In our study of poverty,
Ministry of Works gave you a certification for that?
Ministry of Works, there is federal government. As I said, I was acclaimed as the best. Let me tell you, Rufai, in our study of poverty, we found out that the poorest areas of Anambra State needed access. What we do here is that we think that building infrastructures and painting them and doing this is development. It is not.
But the governor just built a big infrastructure in the states. The governor's house and some other quarters, which they say is bequeathed to the states.
Very good. When I came, and it's very good, and I thank him for that. When I came,
why didn't you build that one? Why didn't you build that one?
When I came, there was no government house at all. There was no governor's lodge. They were all burnt. There was no government house. There was no governor's lodge when I came. Not even House of Assembly. All those things were burnt because my predecessor had issue, and some thugs and hooligans came and burnt everything. So I didn't even have anything. Rufai, I said, from my village, I went to live in Onitsha. And then renovated and rebuilt whatever is being used now. So you could see the foundation. I don't know, but it's like anybody coming here and say, oh, this place is a bungalow. You have to live here now to build upstairs. So I couldn't have started building the huge one when I didn't even have any place. So the day I was sworn in as a governor, Rufai, in Anambra State, I did not see anywhere called Governor's Lodge to sleep. I did not see anywhere called government house. It was after 1 week of coming from my village that I asked the secretary to government to vacate his office. So I started working there. And then went to live in Onitsha and started renovating the house in Oka. So where they are now, that is moved from, was built by me over 10 years ago. So now I built that one, built the government house, and then found out that we needed to invest in critical areas. Rufai, when I came, The schools, secondary schools, primary schools were in a very bad shape. That is not my priority. Should not be to start building where I'm going to live. My priority should be to invest in critical area of development. That's what I told the people I was going to do. And I turned the education around.
Okay, let me put this to you. A lot of people also say that show me your friends and I'll tell you you are. You influence the measures of your successor that had a lot of problems. Is that a reflection of you?
Which problem do you have?
Oh, with all the, being called by the EFCC and all of that, then what ensued as regards him saying you didn't leave as much money as you claimed behind and all of that, and the breakback that ensued. So is there a reflection of you that you backed such a person? These are some of the things they say against you.
Let me tell you, Rufai, Obiana has never said, and this is what I tell people, I didn't leave money behind. What you see here is that they go and say, oh, group said, that's what I was doing. Oh, this group said, oh, this didn't leave money. This group said, at the time they interviewed me, I said, listen, I didn't hand over to group. I handed over to Obiano. So why are they talking?
But
group?
What they keep on saying is the money that you claimed you left behind, it was not as much as what you left. You also left a lot of liabilities.
Let me finish now. They keep saying group said, Rufai, the money I left behind was not left in overseas. I left money in 3 banks. Those 3 banks are there. You can go there. In fact, after this interview, I have in my little office here a photocopy. I will give you a photocopy of my handover note, including the balances of that account as I did I left office, issued by the banks. I left in Access Bank, which is still there. 12 billion naira, $50 million. And I'm going to give you a copy.
12 billion naira and $50 million in Access Bank.
I left in Diamond Bank. 12 billion naira, $50 million.
In Diamond?
Diamond. I left in Fidelity Bank. 12 billion naira, $50 million.
$50 million in these 3 accounts. And 12 billion
dollars and 36 billion.
What debts did you...
1 minute. They're documented. Rufai, the day I left office, I was not owing one contractor, one supplier who have executed his job. If you see one today, I challenge you. Go and sit. I was not owing any civil servant that was supposed to be paid by the state salary. I was not owing gratuity. I was not owing pension. Additionally, if you want to know, I left salary enough to pay salary for 3 months. It's documented. And I'm going to give you the documents. It's not something that anybody... So I wasn't owing anybody.
So you said you were not owing people that had completed their job, but you were owing those that had not completed their jobs.
If you haven't done your job, can I pay you? How can you pay somebody who haven't completed a job? Even you.
So you are not paid those that were not completed, that the job was still ongoing.
If your job is ongoing, I won't. Let me give you an example.
So are you telling me?
When I came into
Are you telling me that you left no debts behind in Anambra?
Not one. I was even begging people to come and take their money. If you had a job in Anambra, you can go and ask anybody. Not one. Anybody who tells you Peter B was owing him, call the person. I've challenged people for 10 years.
Okay. And we're just throwing the challenge out there, still there's another thing. They said you want to be president, but you can't sort out problems in your party. People say they don't trust you. They see you as weak. Because how can you say you want to be president? You can't sort out things. They also say that for you, it's a one-man show. It's all about you. It's not all about the generality of people.
Rufai.
It's a tunnel vision, ideology, and all of that.
Rufai, this is what you get always, right? This is what you get always in Nigeria. Because we now live in a country of propaganda and lies. And they manufacture it. The problem we have in the Labour Party is problem instigated and sustained by the government of today.
Where's the proof?
I don't need to tell you. When you have a party chairman who calls a state governor a dwarf and dwarf thinking, forget about me. So it's not weak. Okay, I'm weak, but it's not weak. Is every other person there weak? So let's all be sincere with ourselves. Before they call you names here, you know it. You speak the truth and you call you names. We now live in a country of propaganda and lies and trying to put problems everywhere. They won't even put problems in families. Rufai have managed and built a business locally and internationally, and they're thriving. By the time I left them, I've been chairman of corporations, quoted companies, director, and I've earned my respects. And I've been a governor. There's no place that I've shown weakness. Rufai, I returned school that was taken from churches 40 years that nobody could even dare mention.
But these are the point people. These are the points people like Kenneth Okonkwo.
Yes.
These are the things they said against you.
It's just Kenneth Okonkwo. Who again?
But it's a valid point of view. It's an echo chamber.
If 12 persons that followed Jesus, one went against him, how about me, where millions followed, and you're counting those who went against me? Listen, people must go against you, people must speak against you, and their own listen. I still remain consistent and not changed. Like I said, Kenneth is my younger brother. He has his reasons for his actions or what he wants to do. Rufai, humility, patience, tolerance is not weakness, it's a virtue. It is not easy for people to remain where I am. And when I was campaigning election, before I went to places people dare not go to. I was in Southern Gombe. Was everywhere. People fear to go. Before I drive around this country today, this year alone, I've driven from Abuja to Kafancha, to Kaduna, to Kanu, to Katsina, to Jigawa, to Jos, to Benue, to Kogi. Where's doing that? So people just stay in their house and talk about this macho they are. Just like they stay, they don't go to anywhere. It's easy to be an armchair critic. For God's sake, I'm on the road.
You know why they keep talking about this weakness? Because as it stands today, you don't even have a platform at which you're going to run elections.
Don't worry.
If Julius Abure says, I will continue with the Wahala,
don't join them.
He will continue the Wahala, and coalition talks are still going on. That might swing in your favor, that might not swing in your favor. So that's why a lot of people keep saying you're weak. They say, okay, you're so weak that you can't call out some activities of IPOM that is not palatable. But these are the things they say. These are the things they say about you. And that's why they say, can you reach out into the north?
Rufai, I criticize every single act that is wrong. Whether it's go and follow it. Whether it's in the east, west, south.
They say you're not hard enough on IPOP. That's what they say.
I'm hard on everybody. And remember what I said during the campaign until today. Any agitator I will discuss with. There's nothing wrong in agitation. Whether it's Yoruba movement, whether it's Mora movement, any movement, I'll sit down and discuss with. It is important because you dialogue people. Even in my house, people agitate. Why don't you dialogue with them? I have children who say, "Oh, I don't want to do this, Daddy." And I say, "Okay, let's give me your time. Let's talk." Why are we fearing talking with people? Let's sit down and talk. And then we have exhausted the reason. And if you don't, and that's it. So it's a question of, so like I told you, we've been radical in our approach. And we thought that bad behavior and rascality makes you powerful. No, it actually kills the system. Good behavior has become weakness. Good character become weakness. Humility has become, everything that is good in Nigeria is classified as wrong. If I go into a place whipping people, shouting and beating people, I'm a strong person.
So the current vice president once said about another candidate was going that, he's too nice, that he's not nice people that are needed in leadership. And that's the same thing a lot of people are also saying.
It's unfortunate.
About
not
you.
Rufai.
And I also want to know your take on this state of emergency thing, Governor Fubara, and the fact that a lot of people are saying there's been state capture, democracy is waning, and the likes, and the courts, and other some issues.
Let me tell you, Rufai, as far as I'm concerned, I maintain it. There's no democracy today in Nigeria.
So what are we practicing? So why are you running the 2027 elections if there's no democracy?
We will continue to be agitating for true democracy. Rufai, being an election in Edo, does this show any sign of being a democratic country? Capital, no. Rufai, the coffin was nailed by what happened in Rivers State. You cannot, on any circumstances, solve a problem in a democratic setting by going against the rules. You can't even solve any problem by going against the rules. There's a process.
President Tinubu went against the rules in River State?
Of course, there's a process there's a process. What did you do? You've actually said it's undemocratic. When you go and bring somebody that is not elected, that didn't follow, there was a process.
But a lot of people too will remind you didn't hold local government election when you were in Anambra State. It's easy to point at Tinubu now, but what about you?
I'm not pointing at them. I'm just telling you, I can tell you, go and check the court process in Anambra State. I was in court for years against conducting an election because people thought if I conduct it, I would do what everybody's doing. So it took me almost 7 years before we could conduct. Rufai, I governed one of the virtually the most difficult states at the time he had crisis. If there's nothing I did in Anambra State that people are proud of today, I brought stability and order in Anambra State. Before me, nobody who was governor in Anambra State had what you can call a peaceful reign. It was quarrel for 4 years. Ngige was quarrel until he left after 3 years. It was under me that things started changing. Because of the same way I've managed things, started changing, and started becoming something. I even changed it from being home for all to light of the nation. I started doing things in an organized manner. Rufai, I was the first person in old and new Anambra State to be governor twice. So I started organizing things properly. So it is easy to sit there and say, oh, he did this. But the reality of it is, Rufai, come, let's visit the state. I live there. That's where I live. And when I'm there, I'm at home. It's the only place I am. There's nobody who will tell you today, this bit of visa house in Abuja, this bit of visa house in Lagos, this bit of visa house. I live in Anambra State. In Lagos, I live in a rented apartment. In Abuja, most times I stay in the hotel. So, but I have a home in Onitsha, where I go back and I'm always there. So you can come walk the street, no security, and I invite you.
Okay, Mr. Peter, one thing is certain. We'll still keep bringing most of these criticisms and asking you questions about the state of
Oh no, they're going to be. It's going to be happening.
And we'll keep asking you this question. But
Rufai,
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rufai, thank you for. But let me assure you, I'm committed to better Nigeria, and I have what it takes. I have the experience of all those who want to be president today. Nobody have my background. I built a business from the scratch. I've operated in the corporate world, and I've been a governor. And in all this, you can go and say, I was a social businessman. I transformed the smallest bank into a 25 billion bank then, and a private bank today. I've been a governor where I told you that the day I left, I was not owing anybody, and I've been the one who saved most money. And in all this, Anambra State has not bought me a bottle of pure water since I left office.
Don't you collect pension from this?
No pension, no gratuity, nothing.
Okay, so you don't collect pension?
I've not been, I said they've not given me bottle of water, pure water, not even rainwater, pure water, the one that is in sachet. I've not seen one.
But they gave you votes during the elections, your presidential bid.
What there's Anambra government. I did Anambra State. People who voted for me are the people. I said, Anambra State government have not bought me a sachet of water. So nobody will say, oh, and you can go to Anambra State. If you seek any piece of land allocated by the state belonging to P2B, confiscate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. It's been another very enlightening session with Governor Peter Obi, former governor of Anambra State, and the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine, thank you.
All right, an insightful conversation there. Rufai Oseni, very great job on that. I think you touched a lot of the right points. Where do I begin? I don't think you can start by critiquing your own work. Dr. Abati, your takeaways from that.
The first major takeaway for me is Mr. Peter Obi's simplicity, his humility. Now, he's saying that, look, he has just one house in Onitsha. In Lagos, he has a flat. He stays in hotels in Abuja whenever he's there. Look, the same cannot be said for many of these former governors. And he also pointed out that since he left office as governor in 2014, no succeeding state government has even bought him a bottle of water. Well, if you compare that, I don't think he was saying that in the context of expectation. It was the subtext for me is the fact that many of these former governors, they collect all kinds of privileges from the states. They would take a house in their states, they will get a house in Abuja, their medicals and that of their families will be paid for by the state government. They will go on holiday at state expense. They just turn themselves into government children. Whereas the honor of service should be more important. And so you have an example of one governor here saying that, look, it's not a parasite. It was enough for him to have served. And I think that that is important. And you recall that in many states of the Federation, there's been, a protest against former governors who end up living a parasitic life, living like leeches, at the people's expense in their various states. Again, about Mr. Peter Obi's simplicity. I was once on a trip to Morocco. Some of these people, when they are going to London, some people go through Libya, some people go through Turkey. They cannot afford to buy, direct flight ticket to London. And that was even in those days when, tickets were even cheaper. Not now that, you almost have to go and rob a bank to be able to travel from one part of the world to the other. People were shocked when they saw Mr. Peter Obi inside the aircraft, inside the economy class, going to London via Air Maroc. In fact, the whole aircraft, just stood up and they started clapping for him. They couldn't believe that a man with his kind of background as a businessman, a former governor, would just, take the simple route to go to London. I've seen him on the streets of London before. You will see him carrying his own bag. He doesn't have an entourage. Maybe you will see him with one person, Valentine, who was my classmate at Lagos State University. That's the only person you will see with him, and he will be walking on the streets like everybody else. So the humility that he brings to the task, the simplicity that he brings to it, the humanism, his lack of pretense, I think is something to be said for him. And it came through in that interview. Second is the record of his performance as governor in Anambra State. Now, as governor in Anambra State, well, you can benchmark whatever he says about education, about government house, and all of that against, the people of Anambra. In the Anambra will have their own assessment of, what has happened, how each governor has performed. But one thing that could be said about him was that he was a very religious, leader also in Anambra, particularly with the Catholic Church, and how he made efforts to reach out to other constituencies, whether church or Muslims, and promote the ideals of religious unity. Number three, standout point for me here, was the point he was making about the state of the nation. Now, again, characteristically, he was talking about productivity. That is not enough for you to float currency, that you have to benchmark it with a lot of productivity. Well, he's been consistent in that regard. And then he says it's not about sharing money, that the state governments get more money and all of that. Well, all the things he said about the state of the nation, somebody will just say, okay, he's a leader of the opposition. What do you expect him to say? The Tinubu administration has remained consistent in saying that his reform-minded approach is precisely what Nigeria needs. As for the crisis within the Labour Party, I don't think it's something that you can wish away. That Labour Party, gave a lot of young Nigerians a lot of hope. I think it's unfortunate that the Labour Party has not been able to put its house in order. And as leader of the party, that is a question that will always, come across. But, look at his humility, his simplicity. I think, he represents a different kind of example of political leadership, of business leadership. This is a man that has been involved with 3 different banks, and yet he sees the need to give account. I hope that more political leaders, will learn 1 or 2 things from his example.
He was attacked by Boko Haram. His convoy was attacked. So you can imagine the audacity of these fighters, the audacity of these terror groups. They don't care. They don't want to know who you are. They are out for whatever their mission is. These are the same people being granted pardon by the Nigerian government. These are the same people being granted pardon by the Tinubu's government. But see what they are doing. They are now attacking the former chief of army staff because they know that they have sophisticated weapons. They know they are being sponsored. Their sponsorship cannot be interrupted, cannot be stopped. And they are wasking strong, the audacity that they can even, attack military bases, make away with their weapons, set ablaze some of their armories and, their vehicles and all that, because they are being given allowances. So, guys, a whole lot is happening in this country. And that is why Peter Obi is speaking up at this time, because yet much is yet to be done. I mean, nothing has been done. Considering how Tinubu and the Akpabio-led Senate have been managing the Nigerian economy, you know that nothing has been done. Is it not under this government that insecurity has worsened, hunger has worsened, hardship has worsened, unemployment has worsened, frustration among Nigerians has worsened, people wake up not knowing their left to their right, not knowing where to go to get the next meal? Is it not in this same government? And that is why Peter Obi is coming out to speak on what he would have done differently in Nigeria if he was to be the head of this country. And it's good that everybody is experiencing it, because before now, you know, they thought, oh, let Tinubu come, it's about tribe, it's about religion, and they felt the hunger is not going to spread across. Now the hunger is everywhere, you know, it's everywhere. Everybody's feeling the heat. But what we are trying to say is that it is time for us to send a very strong signal to the Tinubu's government come 2027. Because you can imagine if this hunger is going to last for the next 6 years. This unemployment, this insecurity, this dormancy among our leaders, if it's going to last. Tinubu just completed 2 years. He has 2 years to go. And then if he's re-elected, the next 6 years, I mean, people must have run out of their patience. Many people must have lost their lives. And that is why Nigerians must stand up to say enough is enough of all this menace coming from the government. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.